Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Job Shop USA. My name is Keith and we're in my shop again. All right, we're getting ready to put some oil in here. After a quick scan with my new Peel 3D scanner, I was able to create replicate the face of the top of the gearbox, and I put that into my Fusion 360, created a DFX to send to the plasma cam. We went in and we cut out the base plate here, and then I said, okay, how high do I want to make it? I happen to have a nice piece of 1/8 by 2 flat bar, and I put my little 25-inch brake into the hydraulic press over there, and I bent up the shape and tacked it. And I only tacked this thing together because I didn't want any distortion, because I'm not going with any real thick material. I just wanted something quick. After I created the lower section and the vertical 2-inch lip, then I created 2 more pieces on that sandwiched a piece of plexiglass and a piece of 1/8 roofing rubber that I happen to have in my container out there. And I also put a piece of rubber gasket down here. And of course, it is a nice see-through window, and it's as big as the opening on the top of the lathe. So we're going to set that out of the side, and we'll just hang this over here as well. Alright, I want to put the proper amount of oil in here. We're going to set it to our sight glass here, and then we're going to manipulate the pump until we do pump oil throughout our units and oil up and make sure that we have oil on both of our main spindle bearings. The other bearings all get oil from the inside. I can see the bearings from the inside, so I'll know that everywhere has oil. Also, at that time, the oil level is going to be above the new seals. So this really kind of tests out whether this thing will actually hold oil. You know, a drip or two. You know, it's remember back in the day they had wicking for packing, and that's how they controlled the drip. And most of the old machines were made to weep and lubricate everything else around it. And so, all right, I got a new 5-gallon pail of oil. It's the same thing as my older pail, so I just figured let's go ahead and we'll empty out this one, and if we need more, we'll open up the new one. Hydraulic fluid, A46 is what I use. Non-detergent. It's what I've been running in the closet in here since 1994. It's what I've been running in the K&T over there since 92 or 93. I finished building that. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and pour some in here until I got it in the sight glass here. Just starting to see a little bit in the bottom of the sight glass there. All right, sight glass is showing half level there of the glass. surprising. That probably only took a couple gallons. Sure looks nice down there with oil in there. Alright, I walked all the way around and I have no leaks anywhere, so I can give it a pretty good pump here with my Allen wrench here. Allen wrench handle. And I'm pumping like crazy through the sight glass here. I'm going to grab my mirror and look down in beside the bearing. I should be able to see it drizzling out on each side of the rear bearing and the front bearing. Making sure I got some oil in here. That's pretty good. It actually has a good flow coming out of that bearing already. I don't know if I can see anything on this forward bearing here. Okay, I'm just going to roll this over now by hand here, just watching some of the oil flowing through the gears. I don't really have any just oil tension right now. I don't have any cogs actually engaged to make the run going over there, so it's just the oil. All right, let's see here. Let's go ahead and gonna be wild really watching this thing through. Okay, let me see here. I'm gonna go ahead and it's gonna be too hard to go back through the gear train with that one there. I went ahead and took a clear cup and drained from the drains, checking out my drain on the sump and everything, so I was able to fill the container and then pour it and pour it, pour it, pour it. And so I've lubricated everything that I can possibly get to from this side, and I pumped, and I'm sure that I've got oil everywhere it needs to be for the initial light off. So we can't get in there to put any oil in or anything else once this is on here, but I'm going to put the clear window up here so that we will be able to view down in here and watch the light off, and shifting into every gear, taking our tach, and we're going to read the chuck speed, and we'll read the motor output, and can't wait. Yeah, I got the electric motor starter and the switch to come in yet, so I thought it'd be in today and I might be able to do something this weekend, but it looks like next week. So we are ready though, because we have created our viewport to be able to watch the action here. And I will have a camera set up here just like when I was assembling the shafts, so you get a nice good view right down in there with plenty of lighting. So this is going to be pretty interesting. I can't wait. We're going to be concentrating on the carriage today. At the same time, I'm going to bring you in because I've never really talked about it or showed you pictures of the grinding that went on with the ways and the repair of the carriage and all of that in detail. And I have photos that David from Mechanics Machine Works Incorporated, Rhode Island, sent me. And I'm going to set up at the end of this video here, or towards the end of this video anyway, as I'm talking about the bed and the grinding and all of that and what really went on. But first I'm jigged up. I made a few pieces. I had almost everything. I just needed a plasma cutter plate to go on this end here. And I'm going to take some rigging, and we're going to lift up the carriage and we're going to flip it over. I need to get to those metering valves and pull those out and order up what I need to replace them. At the same time, I have a oil line that I snipped that joined the carriage and the apron. And I want to talk a little bit about, or make the point, basically, that when I started tearing this down, I've rebuilt a lot of machinery, and sometimes I don't do anything with the ways except for clean them up, deburr them, any raised areas, maybe check some gibs, maybe even shim a gib, things like that. But I've taken and rebuilt all the mechanical components. Let's just take this gearbox right here. All the changes I did to improve it and make it much better, and this spinning perfectly. That's great, because that's all part of one part of the lathe, is what I'm saying. If you do nothing with the bed, the carriage, the tailstock, and how the headstock bolted down to it, you're only as good as you left all of these components. Now, when I first got ready to send this bed out to be ground, I projected X amount of wear, because when you're running the lathe, you know, throughout its career, we don't know what you're actually machining, but you might have been machining this one part in this one location, or in general, the overall amount of parts that were ever machined in here, you're working in this little area. So you know that this doesn't go all the way to the end and the tailstock's off, and you know you're not all the way chucked up here. So basically your wear starts going in. This is 1941, more than 3 months before Pearl Harbor. I'm glad everybody put their math to that. And basically this lathe was made X amount. I don't know when it was sold, okay? And I was kind of pertaining to giving it a little benefit of the doubt on that. Anyway, we got that sag in here. Where? And to make this lathe 100% good running gear, everything else running smooth, you've got to do your grinding and bring materials up. Sometimes you cannot just grind and grind and grind and have things, just put them back together with a new grinding surface. Sometimes you actually have to fill or build materials to compensate for how much wear is gone. And the crew up there at Mechanics Machine Works in Rhode Island did a very, very proper job on this lathe. In fact, this lathe bed now may even be a closer grind and fit than it originally was, only because of technology and equipment they have at their shop to do this kind of job. All right, so I have gathered up some odds and ends to put together a piece of lifting gear, because I want to lift this up, flip it over, put a couple of rubber pieces down there, and I'm just going to set the top upside down right here on the lathe so that I can work on the underside of it. All right, and then we'll get going on with this project, and then we're going to come in with some fantastic footage that Mechanics Machine Works sent me. Thanks to David. We appreciate that very much. Sorry it's been so long since I've actually covered or released this footage. Only because I wanted it at the right time and place of putting this lathe back together. And also, my pace is not everybody else's pace. Alright, the only thing I had to make for this jig that I'm using to lift this was a way to support this 7/8 rod, which fits through that opening on that end and hangs out here. So I have a nub of 7/8 sticking out each end, so that's perfect. So I had to machine a plate to catch these two holes here. All right, now this rod here will let this thing pivot back and forth, but I want to be safe and hold this rod and let it spin without any issues. I already had these eye bolts set for lifting my rotary tables over there at the mill. They all use 7/16, so all I had to do was take two pieces of Schedule 80 aluminum pipe I had hanging out and put one on each end, and this one here just happens to slip right into here, so both of these are like that, and they'll let it swivel. All right, let me grab a strap and some shackles, and we'll lift this thing off. Okay, I'm going to track this back this way here, because I'm not going to bring it up high enough to roll it over, but I'll be able to flip this over. One strap at a time here. There we go. We'll just leave that rigged up. All right, now I can get to all those metering valves in there, and this line right here. There's a block that goes in here, and then one line goes out that port, and right here's the line I need to repair. Panic is over. Once I flip this over and I had it sitting here, and I go, okay, there's some kind of a manifold that bolted into here. Line went out here. That was the one that comes and joins the apron. There's another line that goes down in here and oils the bearing on the cross feed handle pivot point. There's another port right there, and I don't know if there's a long line that comes down and hangs here to drip, but I knew something was missing. And of course, you look at my parts bench, and I have pretty well scrapped and scraped down through everything underneath that bench, and everything that's trayed and categorized for its location on the lathe. I'm going, where is that part? I was just about ready to go out and start searching in my container, and I started hitting a couple areas in the shop here. And the one thing that I was doing when all of this came about, as far as making sure that, because they wanted the cross slide, they wanted my tailstock, they wanted the headstock, they wanted the apron for the gear alignment on the rack. They wanted everything that had to do with grinding this bed. So I pulled this out of here. One, because I knew I had, this is my painting equipment here. And some more painting equipment, just stacked on top of each other. And then here's some filters for pouring paint. And what's underneath there? The tray that holds all the components for that little manifold right there. And happy dance. Let's take a look here. This is the main little valve here. I'm going to set the tray down out of the way right now. Okay, so here's the line that broke. This line here was the one that went under there, like that. Like that. This line did come over and drip down there. There's a little screw keeper that must have went in there like that. And then this screw went in there. Okay, I got that. These two screws went into there. All right, so we got meter valve there, meter valve there, meter valve there, and then we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 meter check valves at those locations. I can't get in here with my open ends very well. I hate to round off all those edges there. All right, this is my snap-on. I can't grind into the end of here and make it into a little tubing wrench. It would be the perfect size to go in there, but this is my snap-on. All right, I'm not going to grind in that wrench because that probably cost me $1 million a couple years ago. This is my SK set, and I like it a lot, but it's only a 6-side wrench, and I might want to have, because I have a limited here. So I went down to O'Reilly's and I purchased Power Torque. Nice 12-sided, real thin wall right here. All right, and it says lifetime guarantee. All right, let's see about that. This is the crossroads of lifetime guarantee or not. All right, I marked it where I wanted to grind it. So all right. Now it's a thin wall tubing wrench. Okay, let's see how we did here. We're just gonna, I like that. Good clearance over that. And let's go ahead and we'll put it on this way here so we can lean it out a little bit here. I'm just going for the middle one here, so. Nice. Can I get in here? Oh yeah, I can get in here. All I need to do is rotate each of these fittings so that I got the size. And okay, so we got a 1, a double aught, a double aught, a 1, and a double lot. right, the spring controversy, and I had to pull it back apart, because if I had this spring in backwards, which I had it basically under the piece like this, and it was holding out. So he said, flip it around. The only way that this could go flipped around is if that leg went all the way in there and rested against the base of that. That puts that way down in there. So, benefit of the doubt, I put together one of the dogs or levers in this position. I left this undone like this because there's no way that you're going to get all of this put together. So this has to be the last pin that's going to go in on the ear of the spinning unit here. It's going to be pretty tough to hold all of these out to get that thing in, because it goes in a 1/4 inch from here, and then this would go down in here. This way the springs definitely do pull the dog out from the clutch. And as far as safety, you're gonna want the brake more than anything else, and you got to make sure that this is disengaging here. So I'm gonna assemble it with the springs in it like this. They do fit. I didn't think that they would, and I didn't see this when I was assembling it. There is no details, and nobody shared a picture of how these springs went in here to start with. This lathe and multiple other pictures of lathes have the short pins with no springs in them. So whether they did away with the springs, or there was no need for the springs, or if the springs were also giving it another problem, I do not know. So I'm going to assemble it this way, and we'll see how it does. All right, I got all 4 springs installed, and they're holding the feet out from the jaw. It takes quite a bit of pressure to hold that in there. Now we're supposed to screw this on here. This gap I measured is a 1/4 inch, where it's pretty close to the adjustment. Now my concern was that this was going to be hitting those things before I get them in there, and it is. You know, it's kind of hitting the washers that I put in here. I just realized, and I found a common position here where we could take just the eye of the cotter pin and there we go. This one here is a little tighter, I guess. There we go. Okay. This was 1/4, or pretty close to it. Like right in there. Alright, so now all we gotta do is get this turned around and the pins put in here. Okay, let's go out. Let's go out one. All right. That fits in there. All right. Now I need some more cotter pins because I got those all holding. Okay, let's take a poll. How many people think the springs are in the right direction now? This is my limited flat spot. It's only got room for one project. This is the frame for the taper attachment, and I brought it in from the other room, all finished painted. I peeled the masking tape all off of it, and now the next step, because I sandblasted all these parts. Anytime you sandblast parts, you have got to run you tap through and clean out every single hole. And that's what I'm doing right now. Once I do this, then we're going to start bringing in some parts. We're going to start assembling this taper attachment. I want to share something with you. This is really a good sign of love here. And this is my gift from Lisa for Christmas. And this is one of the new Viper chairs. And I had been looking at them for a while, and she caught that they dropped their price $200 on all their models there during the Christmas season. And so she picked this up, and she actually bought it, loaded it in my car without me knowing it. I drove it home, and then we were opening some gifts, and she says, "Hey, you know," she threw me the keys of the car. And she had this in there. I'm not promoting Viper. I'm not, you know, I'm not sponsoring them or all. I'm sharing something that I'm totally happy with. One, these are made in Wisconsin. There's a USA made flag label on here. This is the most comfortable 3.5-inch cushion seat I've ever sat on. I've also done the rolling test across all of these mats in my shop, across the floor, and it is everything that they say it is. I can adjust it down. It really is nice working on Pearl, because I can get right down to the side, or I can bring it on up. There's all kinds of models and stuff like that, but she does. I favor blue. It's my favorite color. She pulled it off, and you'll see it. You'll see it in my videos. Okay, here again, I'm not sponsoring them, or they're not sponsoring me. There is a lot of threads here to clean out, but they're basic 5/16. There's some 4/3/8 here. This is 10/24s and some 1/4 20s. So I just hit. Now I've already gone down this whole side over here, and now I'm just starting over here on this side. And these in here right now are the ones that hold the lower rollers on. And then I gotta, after I do all the tapping, I've got 8 holes that I've got to run the reamer through, because you not only, the reason why I'm tapping after I paint and everything and not before I paint, to clean out the sandblast and stuff, is because of the painting. And the same time I'm peeling out, because some of these are through holes, and the reamed holes as well. Some of them actually are touched up with paint, as well as the sand blasting from, like these here are, there's some paint on the other side of the threads there. So when I run the tap down through, I can see that I'm peeling out some of the paint, and it's falling down there on the towel underneath the part here. Regardless, it lets me do one operation, and it cleans up 2 acts of refinishing, the sandblasting and the painting. I was gonna say ready for the first thing, but I think I did the first thing the other day. I was kind of bored, so I wanted to kind of pre-assemble all of these. And I'm going to pull this one apart so I can show you that this is the shank that goes through the housing. This is the bearing diameter, and it's cams. Okay, so that's what gives the adjustment in and out on these bearings. And then of course you got the housing. There's a brass shim washer that goes between the bearing and these units right here, and then it's just a lock washer and a nut. All right, nothing's tight because you need to adjust these. And so we put them in this direction right here, and each of these fits in here. They're all exactly the same, and they're all adjustable. All right, so we're going to get all those in, and I just got a new can of Never Seas. Is almost a pain because there's too much in there. You don't want, right? Always sniveling. All right. Here's the fatty. Same as this bearing here, but this one here is a little narrow. This is a single row bearing. These are double row bearings, but I put rubber lip seals instead of shielded. So if I'm running coolant, these are going to outlast these. If you know, these are good in a harsh environment, chips and stuff like that, but these rubber lip seals also help with coolants that that tend to rust up and whatnot, just like these old bearings here were. One more on the side, and we're gonna swing her around. Okay, I'm just rotating each one of these rollers to where it's down at the bottom of its path or rotation in the lowest setting, and these were on the farthest out setting. And bringing them in to where they're almost ready to be tightened up. So I bring them in and then back them off just a little bit so that I can adjust them, and then just make sure they're setting at the low spot. All right, with with our rollers in there all set basically in the open position, you can see this is the slide, and all four sides I put on my granite stone and I lapped it just to clean it. And also too, you can look real close and you can see the check marks in that surface there and in that surface there, and that's, you want to leave those in there, don't try to take them out. And I believe this goes in that direction. All right, and I know this wants to, this is downhill. Let's see, maybe, oh, that'll work. Okay, I just don't want it to roll out this way. I'm pretty sure that that's how it tends to want to roll anyway. Okay. So now this is prepped here. Now the next part that goes on here, because it has to be assembled here, because this rotary hub here, and we've already lapped this as well. And then on this side here, we took a flat parallel and cleaned all of those surfaces. Took a little emery paper, we blew out the oil passage, and this is all set and ready to go as well. Now this mounts in here, but it has a flat plate on there. That has to be put on, and then the plate that goes underneath the main slide here, with the rod coming out, that can't go on until we mount this. So this is kind of like a stack up here. We still have the gear and the readout. We are gonna put in a new sight glass window. We actually have our frame for that. This is the only pieces that we actually had. This is the half round glass. We could probably get a buffer and we could buff that out, and it actually has the line right there, and that sets down in here like that. I don't know if there was a little collar or ring that went between it and an upper glass that's about 1/8 of an inch. We can cut that on our water jet, and then a spiral spiral ring, I believe, fits into that ring right there so that you get a good clear window. And that sets down in here and has a set screw going over here. So it's all completely adjustable, and this can be added in afterwards. And this is a little different because Monarch also made a square glass insert that went there as well. But this one happens to be round, and that's characteristics of this model. You can see that it's flat and flush. If you look at it close, you can probably see the scrapey lines. That's where it went with shit underneath it. We set this down in here, and it's still plenty loose. We're going to show you how to set up and guide this, and we're going to be doing our setup without putting it on the lathe. We're going to show you how we're going to set the rollers on this vertically and horizontally. But right now we're still assembling a few more pieces. All right, so here's the gear rack so that you can turn this and gauge it back and forth. And this still looks really good. I did a little cleanup on it. All right, I kind of like the satin finish on it. And so we got some Allens to put in here. These two on the outside are long ones. Got a short one in the middle here. Okay, now we go ahead and slip our scale in here, and this is a little tiny Allen. I gotta go grab that. Okay, not gonna quite tighten them up yet. Make sure I get them all in. Awesome. I want to set in a few pieces now, and I think that one go there. That's going to go there. Of course, we want these off to do the adjusting and set and all this. So I'm just actually just kind of like putting some parts together here because I want to see it. This is the plate here, and I dressed off that opening there. I think these are my fasteners for it. There's a patent label that goes right here, and I've got that cleaned up, and I've got to I've got to mount that on there yet. All right. Those 9/16. Okay, and next this bridge will go on here. We got to rebuild that roller unit here. It's all cleaned up and I got the new bearings for it. So, and that's going to be going down in that position right there. Taper, baby. This is one thing that it's been sitting right here on the table over there, and it's been looking like an eyesore for when I started this lathe a couple years ago. Yeah, that's how long it's been looking an eyesore.